Who better than me?
Welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Base the Kid. I'm actually a little bit frustrated at the moment. I'd actually bought a mic to start recording these to get the sound, a little bit clearer, a little sharper, take out some of the background noise. Only to come to find out it doesn't actually work with my phone. Even with the adapter. So I think I have to play that sound directly into a recorder and then splice it together on the laptop, which is not giving me the greatest of attitudes right now. But anyway, we move. It's a problem for another day. I'll sort that out at another time. I was at the O2 last night for the Chantelle Cameron, Mary McGee show, formerly Dillian White versus Otto Varlene. And on the whole, that was actually pretty good. Now, initially, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be doing some stuff for a couple broadcasters. I had been asked if I might be available, so I was like, yeah, possibly, just like, let me know. Didn't quite work out in that way, but I still wanted to kind of get there early to see a little bit of the sort of before the bell stuff. Primarily, I just wanted to watch Ellie Scotney, little blue borough kid, same as myself, so go to show some support. Funny, I was surprised they actually kind of put on all of those shows, like all those fights. It was 4 fights. It was just like back to back to back to back with kind of like no break in between. So by the time I managed to get through a little bit of my traffic in Greenwich, just where the intersection is getting onto the Blackwall Tunnel, where the A102. I got past there. I managed to get down to Peninsula, and I was walking up, and literally Ellie's fight started as I kind of parked up my car. So I'm literally on the phone watching the fight, walking up towards the O2. But I managed to get in there for the last 2 rounds, so round 7 and 8. Checked out the seats, everything was pretty cool. It was real good performance. It was a little bit rusty. It's been a while since you've been in the ring, but 8 valuable rounds in the bank. So hopefully that will stand her in good stead moving forward. Then there was a little intermission. At that point, I had to go grab some food because I'd been gym, hadn't eaten much before that time. O2 prices, but hey, what are you gonna do? So managed to get back to the seats. The Yusuf Kamari and Castaneda fight was on next. That was a good scrap. Good scrap. I won't I won't take anything away from it. When I was watching, I wasn't totally sure like who was winning because, funnily enough, the section where I was at, a lot of Ellie's family was there, so she came out after I guess she'd showered or done whatever she'd done, walked out. All of them are kind of in front of the barricades, and where they are, it's like they're just impeding the view. Like, so at this point, you've got to be standing up, blocking the people behind you to try and see what's going on, or you just had to kind of miss part of the action. So there's a couple rounds in there where I wasn't really sure kind of who was leading, but some of the early rounds I saw Kamari seemed to be jabbing Castaneda's head off quite a bit, but from what I've seen of Castaneda and what I know of him as a person, he seems very much like he can take that and then take you into the deep waters when your gas tank's starting to wear out, and he's a good scrapper like that. Now, when the actual results got read out, I was a bit surprised. I was like, oh, I didn't actually think they'd give it to him. But then kind of I thought to myself, oh, well, even though it's a matchroom show and Kumari's a Dillian White fighter, Castaneda's actually properly signed to matchroom. So when you kind of check it that way now, it almost doesn't make as much sort of conflict. Where it's like, oh, wow, how did that one happen? So it was a very close fight. So to be fair, whoever won, there was no arguing or, oh no, that's wrong. Like, it just is what it is. Um, Pleasantly surprised he got the victory. Be good to see what Kamari does next. Um, but it's a loss that doesn't, I don't think, damage his potential or his career in any way. Like, losses happen. It was a very competitive, good scrap. And if Castaneda goes on to do anything really significant in the division moving forward or any other divisions, then it's definitely not a loss that writes off Kamara either. So well done. Next fight was Craig Richards, Spider, against what's his name, Mattia. Now, how do I put this in the best way? I think Craig made an easy night a little more difficult than it needed to be, but ultimately got the job done. So I think that's the measuring stick, because I had a heated debate with someone previously. I'm not going to mention any names just in case they don't want to be mentioned on here. And our debate was about Richards versus Boazzi and who wins that and why. Now, in that debate, their argument was, well, when Boazzi underperforms, he still wins. When Craig Richards underperforms, he loses or comes up short. So by the logic of that argument, I guess now there's no argument to be had, because I felt that Craig underperformed last night. He didn't show all of what he needed to show, but he won and won convincingly. Got the guy out of there in 6 rounds. A guy that's never been stopped before, never been hurt, and his only other 2 losses had come by split decision, and they went the distance. First guy to knock him out, so that in itself is an achievement. So, in that sense, I would say, job done. Maybe he wasn't fully invested in the fight, because I know that he is one of those characters that if he's not the underdog or he's not totally invested or it's not for a big title or some kind of real, prestigious merit, then he doesn't really go all the way out. So, but overall, decent enough performance, and the stoppage was good enough. So I'm looking forward to kind of what's the next step there. I definitely think you should try and go for the WBO route. Try and see if you get a ranking over there, a higher ranking. See if you can maybe, tempt Eddie to put some money up for you to get that Joe Smith Jr. fight, or whoever holds the belt, because I know he's come out of COVID recently. Apparently he had about a long COVID, so he wasn't doing too well. They say he's doing better now, but who knows if he's going to be able to defend his title. Maybe that title goes vacant. I would definitely put in a shout to try and get pushed in that direction. But of course, it all depends on what Eddie wants to do with the golden child, and I guess that's kind of where you then have to work on getting in where you fit in. Right, moving on from that real quick, I guess really and truly the star of the night, who the show was all about, really was Johnny Fisher facing what was his name, Torero. Now, I'm not really gonna say much about this because it was a 2-round job, but Fisher is definitely a star in the making, if not already. The crowd had about, I think there was about 7,000 people there from what I saw, between 7 to 8,000. I know some people have said no, it was less than that, but like I was there. The majority of the lower, sort of the lower bowl was full, minus maybe 10%. So like all the top top half was all blocked off. So anyone who bought those tickets initially, when they got there, their tickets got changed and they all got put, closer in, make a better atmosphere. I think it was about a good 7,000 people there, and of that 7,000, even though like Johnny Fisher sold 1,400 tickets, him and his dad. No, trust me, like some of them others, they went onto AXS or wherever and they purchased tickets because there was a good 4,500 people in that arena that was just there for him after 3 fights. Like it was a nuts atmosphere. It was very much of a football hooligan type atmosphere without the hooliganism. They were loud. They were loud from before they even got into the O2. Walking up to the O2, they were singing and chanting, "There's only one Johnny Fisher," and them like that was it. So you heard them from way outside the O2 coming inside, and when they got into the arena all night, even with the other fights, all you heard was Johnny Fisher, Johnny Fisher, and as soon as he comes on the screen, rapturous applause. Now, granted, this might be a response that you can only get now in London or maybe like some, South London, East London, Essex, whatever. You know, go to Manchester, maybe they don't travel for him or anywhere else. But ultimately, he's now got his core fan base. He's got his core location. And yeah, the only thing I think was maybe a mistake here. I'm not really gonna talk about the fight. Fight is what it was. I'm sure you all saw it. 2 rounds, knocked the guy down. What was it? Three, yeah, knocked him down 3 times in round 2. Fight got waved off after the count a count out. So it was actually called a proper knockdown because the ref counted him up and then waved it off. So what I would have done. Now, obviously, this is all within hindsight because I don't think they would have really seen this as it came out. But I would have had the main event, which was obviously the women, and then kind of put him on after the main event so that the crowd stayed. Because as soon as he went, about half the crowd disappeared as well. So you went down from like 7,000 to maybe like three and a bit. Then Alen Babic comes out. Now, the rest is that they're staying there for Babic because he brings action. But the people that was only there for Fisher bounced. So then Babic comes, he does his thing against Molina. The knockdown in the first 10 seconds of the first round, brilliant. Like, can't really say a bad thing about it. Then, what I want to say though, and this might be, I'm not capping for Eric Molina. Like, I don't want to see him again. But there was 2 knockdowns, or that were counted as knockdowns, where I don't think they were knockdowns. I like the second, right? The what was it? The second knockdown in the second round, I think it was. He clearly slipped. There was no punch that landed. Like, he slipped. He fell over, and the ref even waved it. Then he looks at the timekeeper who starts giving an account. So the ref's supposed to motion to him saying, no, it was a slip. But then he started counting him when he's on the floor. And I'm like, huh? Okay. And I was ringside. I was literally ringside at this point watching this. And I'm like, that don't make no sense. Okay, he gets up. He tries to fight again. Gets a little bit of a barrage put on him. Goes into corner. I think he gets hit with something. And then he ducks down. And then Babic is like leaning on top of him. And I think he loses his balance and he falls over again. He just kind of lays on the ground. Now I thought, okay, this one again, not going to get ruled a knockdown because the punch that did landed like a good sort of 6 or 7 seconds before. Just like nothing has landed after that. So it ultimately couldn't have been this particular punch that's now knocked him over. Like, you can see body weight has been applied, he's been moved off. But no, the ref counted again. So I was like, okay, 2 of those didn't make sense. But okay, but then he still gets up. And then as he gets up, the ref waves it off. But in that sense there, when you say, oh, he's laid on the canvas, he's not trying to win the fight. I get he's not trying to win the fight. But if he gets up for this second time and the ref decides to wave off the fight, that's not technically him laying down and just accepting the count out because he got up. So while I agree that he didn't really show a huge amount of heart after the sort of the first round, I'm also trying to give him a bit of slack in terms of, oh, like he's just like heartless, gutless, whatever. Just chose a place to sit to lay down and call it a night. I'm a little uneasy in sort of putting that on him just in that particular situation, just because, like I said, I was there, I saw it, I've watched the replays, and it's even more evident that I don't think he, was trying to find his way out of the fight at that particular moment. Just my opinion. Like I said, someone else might have watched it back and felt the same way they felt watching it live. I don't know, but yeah. But anyway, so that fight's over now. Babic wants who's he want? He wants Dave Allen at the end of the year. Maybe he get him. That would be a very interesting fight because Allen's very durable and has got a little bit of skill behind him. Babic might have to not just do the swinging for the fences thing and actually use some of his boxing skills that he does have. Who knows? But as soon as that fight's over, now another. So now I would say you took 2/3 of what was left of the crowd. They've pissed off. So if you see on the broadcast, which again, like I've watched this morning, you might not. They didn't go totally wide too many times to show sort of how many people was left in it. They tried to keep it a bit closer, focused on the ring, so you didn't really see the huge gaping, seats. But there was a couple of times they slipped up, and they did do it before they'd actually like turned down the house lights and focused on the ring. And yeah, it was pretty sparse in there at this time, which I felt was a bit disrespectful to the women. Obviously, I get it. No one really came there to see them as such. Chantelle, yeah, she comes from Northampton, which isn't that far away from London, but realistically, like, it would have been easier to get a crowd for her maybe in Birmingham, like, and somewhere like that, because that would be closer than where London, especially South London, because anyone who lives in London knows that it can take you 2 hours, 2.5 hours to get from one part of London to the other in the worst of conditions or the worst of circumstances. So yeah, London's a pretty big place, and where Northampton's about 100 miles outside of London, maybe more than that. Yeah, it's they wasn't coming there for her specifically. They was there for the main event. Obviously, Mary McGee, she ain't bringing no one over from America. So I felt bad. But that being said, the fight itself was a very good fight. I'll talk about it a little bit, to be honest. Like, Chantelle Cameron has got great footwork and great movement. And one of the things that I actually noticed in this fight, which I never noticed on her previously, and maybe it's because other fighters were a bit more mobile than Mary was, is that whenever Chantelle finishes an exchange, when she's moving, like, she always moves to the direction that her last punch was thrown in. So when she was hitting, say, with the left and jabbing, all of a sudden she's moved off to the left to be able to stop Mary from being able to try and counter or reset. Or if she's throwing a right hook, then she dips and moves off to the right to stop Mary from being able to either jab her or come with her straight right. And she was doing it all night, to the point where Mary just was looking very languished and very unseemly, looking like, she just swinging wildly with no technique behind it. Now, I feel a bit bad for McGee here because she put up a hell of a fight, and while we talk about women, they don't really be knocking each other out and whatever. Like, Chantelle was 14 fights, with 8 KOs. So that's still about about 57% roughly KO ratio, maybe a bit more than that. That's not bad going for like the women's division. So she's clearly got some pop. And there were certain times she did hit McGee flush, and McGee just stood there, ate the shot, and came back with her own. So I got respect her for that. But yeah, McGee's movement was non-existent apart from when she literally just tried to kind of bulldoze or chase Cameron down. Now I think part of that is twofold. She's had a couple stints of inactivity. One of them obviously was due to like pregnancy, and then a couple others were just, like due to just not being able to get fights, not being with a promoter that sort of really backed her to be able to do what she's doing, being very sparsely active, but always kind of being better or than the opponents that she was fighting, minus obviously the couple defeats she had. And even those ones she was kind of competitive, but she'd been out of the ring for 20 months. The last time she fought was in February 2020, the same month that Fury and Wilder fought for their second fight. Also, she was supposed to have a comeback fight in, I think it was June or July of this year, and she got injured in June. She suffered a knee injury, which stopped her from being able to take that fight. Now, if you then sort of fast forward 2 months later, which I believe was in August now, is when this tournament has been spoken about between Chantelle, Mary, and then who's the other two? Kaylee Reese and Jessica Kamara. So that made me say, oh, so hold on. So she's had this injury, which she's having to recuperate from. Now she's got to face probably like the one of the most skilled in the division. There's two others over there. Why wasn't she given Jessica, who is like sort of the newest face out of all of them, the one that's the least proven? Why wasn't Kaylee given Chantelle first? Or even, and I just thought, oh, wait a minute. So are they now, is that the reason why she got the Chantelle Cameron fight? Because yeah, technically they are the two best and you could have the Ring Magazine belt on the line, but she's been the most inactive. Kaylee Reese, I think, has boxed 2 times in the last year. And Jessica Kamara has boxed a couple times recently as well, and she'd recently just had the fight against Heather Hardy back in, I think it was August. It was either August or July. It was one of those 2 months. So she's fairly fresh as well. Don't know. I'm not saying that there's anything sort of untoward there, but it's just giving Chantelle the most inactive one out of the four. It could have been a bit of a matchroom touch, and then you get the other two out there, and then sort of that way you're keeping Chantelle sharp and active, and you've now already got quote unquote the most dangerous of the three out of the way first. Possible. Anyway, back to the original topic. Sorry about the tangent. It was a good event. And I mean, look, the event was what it was. I enjoyed it. It missed the main event. It did, but the women did well. They had a good scrap, which is what the women's boxing pretty much is. That's why I enjoy watching a lot of the women's fights. Even though you don't get the knockouts, a lot of the time it's not about technique either. It's literally about both of us swinging. Who's gonna stand up to it? And I appreciate that. I mean, okay, there was the Jaron Ennis against Thomas Delorme fight. Nothing really to say about that. It was 1 round. Ennis is a problem, as people know. He needs to start stepping up against much better competition than what he's currently facing. Best fight was probably Lipinets, but again, Lipinets is not he's not a natural 147 guy, so can't get a huge amount of credit for that. Delorme's been washed for a while, so again, nothing major to write home about. Jamal James against Butaev, and I actually predicted Butaev to win that fight. I looked at the records, I looked at the victories, and I just kind of looked at the styles. And the fact that Jamal James had kind of been out for a little while, I said, yeah, he's not going to make it through this fight. Ultimately, that's what happened. Butaev got him out of there. 9th round. So now he will face the winner of Stanionis and Ugas, unless Ugas decides that he wants to drop the belt. But then whoever wins that will then end up being WBA Super Champion for 147. I'm quite happy about that. Also, Jose Zepeda beat Josue Vargas again, 1st round knockout. So again, not much to say there. Zepeda's he's a good boxer. He's a bit battle worn, so that may not lead him in the best stead when it comes to facing the sort of the upper elites. But he'll always be in a good scrap for as long as he's about. So 140, if he can get a shot against Josh Taylor or a vacated belt, very likely he could win that. Real quick, I suppose I can talk about the whole Rolly Romero Tank Davis situation. Now, I actually found out about three or 4 days ago that Tank and Rolly weren't going to be fighting each other due to the allegations. But I was told, basically, I can't say anything publicly until it's out there. But yeah, I've seen certain messages between certain execs within Showtime and sort of PBC. Again, I can't really bring up sources, but yeah, those messages are on my phone, stating it was off and they was kind of looking for a replacement. So I'm hearing at the moment, who was it? Isaac Cruz is the new sort of front runner to maybe take that fight. Not sure. I'm not going to say too much about the situation until all the facts come out, but as it currently stands, it's not looking great for Rolly. And to be honest, I thought he was a dead fighter anyway. So if the game loses him, set it go. Anything else for me to talk about real quick? Not that I can think of. I mean, obviously the whole Fury White stuff, talk about that nearer to the time. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything for now. But anything does pop up, I'll probably do another quick video later on in the week. But yeah, like and subscribe. And for right now, Hardcore Casual.